Hi, everybody. It's a pleasure to have you here for another amazing How to Lead Now, the Experts Insight series. And today we have the pleasure to have Anjali Gandhi from Life is Let Go. And hey, Anj, just tell me two words about yourself.
I'm excited to be here right now. So how many words was that?
I'm excited. I am excited to be. No, too many. No, please. Then take 2 minutes. That's better.
So Marco, I'm an executive leadership coach and everybody wants to go somewhere and this is where they are. And we're talking about how to bridge that gap. And that is what we do together. And I love what I do. Feel very blessed, very fortunate. I
Beautiful.
think, yeah.
Yeah. And so today the subject is, I wrote it down because we were too long with the subject. The quality of our communication defines the quality of our life. So that is what we will converse about the next few minutes, or actually 35 to 45 minutes. And so let's kick it off with a question. How do you speak to yourself?
Marco, this makes me giggle because you know what? I was talking to myself before I came live, and I do that so much. And I remember growing up, in India, when I always had this habit, and my mom sometimes used to walk into the room saying, "Are you talking to yourself?" Like, in other words, like, "Are you crazy or insane?" But there is such a social stigma against talking to yourself. But, sometimes I feel that's the best conversation I've had with myself in the day.
Well, it depends what you're saying. So that's the question. I think that's the basis of our conversation today. But you're right. When I thought about today's conversation, I thought about a passage I read. I don't know, in one of Eckhart Tolle's books, either New World or The Power of Now, and where he explains that he once in London followed somebody in the tube and then in the streets, because he was all the time talking to himself. Like he had this double conversation. So he was blaming or asking himself questions and then answering himself, and he was so in his own bubble that he didn't even found out what he's doing, and it was really nasty because he was almost yelling at himself and so on. And he thought, then the guy went into a building and he thought, oh, this guy goes to a psychiatric ward. But he wasn't. It was a whatever official building where he was going in. And the essence of what Eckhart said here is we are so much talking with ourselves that we are not anymore know that we're talking to ourselves. And when we start to really talking out loud in our adult life, at least, because as a kid it's different. In an adult life, we are totally unaware of what happens in ourselves. And well, that is in the total extreme. That's even an pathology, because that is then multiple personality disorder, and that goes very, 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 very far. And it shows actually how ingenious the body or the mind can be to just handle with challenges. Yeah.
That's incredible. You shared that about Eckhart Tolle. How do you pronounce his last name? Tolle.
Tolle.
Yes. Tolle, yes. But it's amazing because you know what? I can imagine him getting lost. As you recounted, like, he's so deep into his thoughts that the train station comes by and he forgets to get off. But in other words, today we also look at that as mindfulness, like we are truly when we are in the moment. So it's interesting how you perceive that, what result you create in that moment with those thoughts. Just this morning, Marco, my girlfriend, Lawton, if you're here, shared an interesting excerpt with me on our group chat where she said that you and I have around 64,000 thoughts that we go through in a day. Hear me out of which 60,000 thoughts are the ones from yesterday. So we're like a hamster spinning on the wheel.
Wow, and that leads us to, if we are conscious, continuously using the same thoughts all the time, or using the same words which we speak to ourselves the same all the time, we are creating our own world because it's always the same. So
Yeah,
oh, yeah.
that's true. I think, where was it that I read this? I'm sorry, I'm not really good at remembering who said what, but the quality of our life is the quality of the thoughts. And at the end of the day, it's all a story. And Rosamund Zander, in The Art of Possibility, says that it's all imagination. We are constantly imagining, and that's the reality then we manifest and land up creating for ourselves.
Yeah, and as we, well, I, as some of you might know, and Anj, is I did a lot of personal development, different personal development seminars and directions and so on. And one of it was Landmark Forum, Landmark, which is good value for money, let's call it like that. It's really amazing, actually. And during that seminar, it hit me so hard when I understood that who I am is my word. So whatever I say is who I am. Now, very often in our society, we say, well, that's, you have to be very careful how you talk to somebody. You have to be very careful how to. Now, that's true. But how difficult is that? If you are talking to yourself like, I am not worth it, I am totally incapable, I don't know how to do, and then you say this all the time in all the different variances. And then you have your child and you want to tell the child, well, you are able to succeed. So how good will be your communication to somebody else, or how much would you have to use your mind to come over and only a little bit of serious and credible by saying, hey, you can do everything you want in your life. It starts always, and that's, well, the description of our today's conversation starts always with the communication with ourselves. And when this communication is not only not only in a way where we say you can be successful or you are successful, but also self-compassionate and really self-loving. And you can be loving, then you can love. So you don't need to go to the head to think about love. So you are, because you just created it for yourself, and you have it created already for the outside world.
I love that, Marco, because at the end of the day, we always come back to ourselves. We always come back to ourselves. And
Yeah, absolutely.
the quality of the thoughts is manifesting whatever we land up creating. And that self talk, that chatter that goes on, it never stops. So we are constantly conditioning ourselves, like, who you and I are today was a picture that was taken yesterday. So if I don't like that picture, I have to do something differently. So, what is the quality of that inner chatter that goes on in our mind that creates feelings in our heart? And then we land up doing things, right?
Let me challenge you. Why not simply accept the picture of yesterday? Surrender to whatever is.
Yeah.
So there is, and actually that's actually a very broad topic, and another one actually we are discussing today. But just to allude to it, is there is this thought process which, in personal development especially, which is you have to do, you have to create, you have to get better, you have to And in essence, what we are creating is we are creating constant self-judgment. And we're creating through that constant self-judgment, we are creating, maybe we are creating success, maybe not, maybe we are achieving a goal, but at the end of our lives, or the end of our day, or whatever time frame you want to take, did I really create success, what I fulfilled? Or did I just attained a non-important or a non-relevant, for me, non-relevant goal? And yeah, I did it. And now, now it's done.
Yeah. Fulfillment, I think that is the key word here, right? And that's your why, you know? Asking yourself,
Absolutely.
like, why is it that I'm talking to myself the way I do? Like,
Yes.
going into, addressing those shadow energies is where you find those answers, because I feel so many times we portray a certain aspect of ourselves. Like, for example, Marco, if I say today, I go for a walk and I tell my children, I met Marco, what does that mean? I met Marco's thoughts, his feelings, his non-verbal communication, his eye contact. I met with what he was not telling me. I met with what he was telling me. So there is so much aspect of, whatever you and I are thinking in our mind that is portrayed outside on how we come across. And sometimes when we say, I met her, and I feel so much of that self-talk, if it's not as accepting, you said that at the beginning, in ourselves, we can bullshit maybe to the rest of the world, but we always come home to ourselves. And the question is, ask yourself, why am I bullshitting? For whom?
For whom I'm doing it? That's
Yeah,
the question.
exactly.
And actually, when we ask this question and we would ask 50 people around, most of them would say, I do it for myself. But if you would go a little bit deeper, you'd find out they're not, few people are doing it for themselves. Most of the people are doing it for what I call their societal programming and to please the people around. And, and I'm not judging here, because that's exactly how I was, or judging here others is exactly how I was, and still I'm a little, but not as much, in my life. It was about being part of, being a big entrepreneur, being a businessman, and not about what I really wanted. It was about how am I seen by society, or how I'm seeing, to go even deeper, how I'm seeing by the people who are very close to me, like my parents or so on. And then our dialogue, to come back to how we speak to ourselves, or my dialogue at that moment is, oh yeah, what would he think? Okay, what will be my peer? What happens when I buy this Porsche? I always talk about my Porsches. Looks like I have to buy a new one once, but
I want to ride in it before I leave.
but it's really about, yeah, how will I come? They will say that I'm an arrogant asshole, but honestly, that's cool, because that shows that I am somebody. So it's better to be called an arrogant one than to be called an a nice one. And so
Yeah, because
so we portray, now we create this self narrative as also about, okay, how can I please, how can I, what will this person, I think one of the main thoughts we are having is, what are people thinking, what is he thinking about me when I do that, what is happening? It's like when I went the first time live, it's still online, so for the ones who want to look at it, it's not so long ago, and
yeah,
it was killing me, because the only thing in my mind was, how will people see me?
yeah. I remember when I went live for the first time was with you. Yeah, but no,
Cool.
but that is such a relevant thing, what you just said. Now, here's what I want to ask you, Marco, and I'm very curious to know if you've observed this also. Like, when I was younger, I didn't really care so much. I wasn't even aware there was this self talk that was happening in my mind. Was just sort of busy living my life. But now, today, as I'm older and more spiritually aware and more curious about what is it that I'm creating and why is it that I'm creating, my question to you is, do you feel also that this has something to do with getting older, being more aware of the self talk?
Well, an amazing good question, uh, because I asked myself that quite much over the last months, and I don't know how it happened, but I'm now in contact with so many young people. Young means then young in in regards to me, so young adults between 20 and 30 years old, and so many I meet are so aware, are so more aware than I always think. Shit, I needed 48 years to get there, and now it's like I can talk to these people who are just so aware of themselves, of and they are thinking way further than actually I was thinking at that age, and I don't know if it is it is for some people. Well, let's call it like that. For people who went through the hassle of meaningless creation as myself and many others. Um, yeah, at one moment in time, you have the possibility or you get this access to, yes, I want to change. Or yes, there has to be something more. But this happens way earlier these days for the young people because of climate change. They see what do we have? We still have 40 years to go for on this planet. At least me. I'd say that's more or less maybe 10 more. uh, but they
Yeah,
still have to go 80,
yeah,
20, 80. So it's a double. So they see that they have a whole perspective, a different perspective. And I think even so, I'm not a big Greta Thunberg fan. What she may, what she, what she realized or happened to do is that make these things clear. And if people are confronted with a non-solvable solution, situation for them, they look at something more.
yeah.
And said, and then for me, and that's my personal belief, then they look inside. You can look inside yourself, and that's where the awareness starts. So I believe that today awareness starts way earlier because of the challenges, and COVID is a
True.
huge
Yeah,
accelerator for young people right now. And as said, I had 3 calls already this week with young people, uh, people still studying or just done with studies, and it's amazing how they think. It's amazing um, how aware of themselves they are already, or at least how aware of the huge challenge they have, and how difficult, and that the solution lies not outside, not only,
yeah.
and that they have to align internally.
I couldn't agree with you more. Now I compare myself, like, how I was as a 13-year-old and compare him to my 13-year-old teenagers. I feel the children today are so much more aware. And I feel growing up, maybe the times that we were growing up, conversational competence, there wasn't such a huge impetus that was created in our educational systems for being competent and having grit around good communication, self-awareness. But today I feel like our schools are doing a much better job. I also, though, would like to ask you this again. Do you think that somehow we become more aware? Like if you're just sort of floating through life and everything is hunky dory, we don't really care to listen so much to the chatter that's in our brain. But then when we hit like a little corner where you're given a second chance to reevaluate the life that you have created, and you're hit by a setback or a tragedy, then maybe you really become more aware of what's going on up there and hence in here. I wonder what you feel about that.
I'm coming back to Eckhart Tolle because he talks about that most of the people are in the ancient religions, and especially in Christian religion or Catholic religion, it was called the way of the cross. And the way of the cross was that pain became so unbearable that you changed. And a lot
Wow.
of us go walk well. So it's not literal, huh? But most of us, especially when we get older, we go through this way of the cross. So we are burying, we are carrying it till we see that we can surrender to it.
Yeah.
And that's only one way. And that's the way how we, or I am myself, not we, but I say just myself, had more or less to go through, and so many other high achievers, let's call it like that, achievers in the classical sense of the word of material or recognition achievement. So yeah, there it is. It is as older you are, as tougher it becomes. I had another conversation this week with a person which was who said, Marco, what you're talking about is so interesting
Yeah.
for older people who are going out of their career, because there is this void of nothing after a brilliant career. So what I want to say is that we all have these openings, these doors are opening for us in our life, where, as you say, tragedy happens,
Yeah.
or whatever happens, what your mind perceives as a very painful moment for, where you have the access to this awareness. And I saw that happening for so many people. I saw it also happening for people who got the opportunity, didn't take it, or take it for a while, and then could go back into their old normal, and everything was gone. It's like their openness, the awareness, like, oops, it hurts too much, which is not a judgment again. It
Yeah.
makes sense because it hurts.
And I love that. And everybody has a very different way of interpreting whatever is happening in their lives, really, which is directly proportional to how well you truly know yourself in the moment. I like that. What you said, the picture is always changing, right? And we have to
Yeah.
accept that. So I feel like, when we talk about the quality of how you and I talk to each other determines the quality of our thoughts, our relationships, and how we grow or fall through those relationships, what success we create. And, at the end of the day, it boils down to really finding, operating, Marco, from this space of being aligned with your true north and the rules that we play this game of life by, knowing our values and beliefs.
Yeah.
I feel like, because I feel like, when do I criticize myself? Like now I feel like, I feel really free, Marco, when I say the things I want, when I do the things I want, and that negative chatter is not telling me, like, you shouldn't have done that, you shouldn't have said that, she might be unhappy. When that chatter reduces, and I was like, what has shifted to be able to create that is better understanding of what are the game, how am I going to play this game called life? What are my rules? Why am I honoring that? Does that speak to you at all?
Absolutely, and it's very nicely said. What comes up for me is that you can take it, you can take the it from the two different angles. The one angle is, let me get aligned, let me do what I want to do, and that aligns my thoughts. Now, or and you can say, okay, let's work on on my inner chatter, on my inner communication, and find my alignment through the fact that I calm my mind. Now, there is no one way. Both, I think, are the one walks the one side, the other one. For myself, it was really about finding a better communication with myself, and a more positive one, the one where every morning I get up, I think my first thoughts. I was interested. What was my first thought today? Yeah? And so at one moment in time, I created this first thought for me was, today is the best day of my life. Again. and and so as I made it fun, uh, it became a routine, and this routine triggered something in me. And so there is not, what I want to say is, like, a lot of people say, find out what you want, find your true north, and then everything is fine. But the true north finding is not something easy to do for everybody. Some people, it's just like, that's what I want. I want to make the best Italian gelati in the world, and that's my purpose, and that's what I am doing, and I'm happy. Fine. And
That's
then, okay, now to really make yourself happy, think positively. Don't think about the negative aspects of your business. And so you can go down that road. But so many people, and I was really included till very recently, so many people don't have that possibility to see already that true north right away. So for them, it's like, and I don't like to say that, but then I will still say it. It's fake it till you make it. And you say, hey, today's the best day of my life. I can tell you, when I was running a company, and so I was getting, every morning when I got up, my head was like that. I was thinking about thousands of things which are not working, of the challenges, of everything at once in the morning. So imagine how productive and fulfilled my day could be. And today when I get up, I first think, cool. Now first think nothing. And then I think, okay, today is a good day. I love it. And then I go for my meditation. And then I'm very mellow. And then I start my day. And then, yeah, we all, at least me, I still have bad thoughts. And actually, for the moment, is not a happy moment for me. So I have a lot of thoughts which are coming back because of my personal evolution and so on, which I love because that's what I love to do. But it's not, as I said before, it's not always fun. So I think we really have to take it from the both angles. It's not like that. So I admire the people who know things right now. That's what I want to go. And then you just say, okay, how do you think? How do you talk to yourself? Because it's quite easy, because then he knows. And then and then you always have leverage. You can always say, okay, when you're not thinking like that, that doesn't drive you to your true north. So it's totally different. But if you're not, then what are you fighting for? I experiment right now in my how to call that, in my concept. I experience a lot with hope, because I feel, and I don't have my narrative ready yet, but I feel a lot that hope is very positive in this process, because the hope of a better future, the hope of a better life for our children, the hope of is driving us. It can give us power to go forward, can give us power to create intentions, and the goal will come, but it's not always there at the beginning.
That is so deep, Marco. Hope. It's so if we are trying to, first of all, when you said that I'm not having so many positive thoughts, I love that fact that you are out there expressing it and saying it, because, even when I'm talking to my clients, they have such a bias against, I'm sorry, this doesn't sound positive. The fact that you just said it and owned it, that you were maybe not feeling positive, is positive in my book. That sets you one step forward, right? And the second thing that you say is, like, once you have this acceptance that maybe my positive right now is that I'm not feeling so positive. That gives you hope. That is such a catalyst. I love that because hope is what really sets you forward. And where does hope come from? It comes from conviction, where you trust yourself. How much do we trust ourselves that within me is the capability that, yes, hope is not just a concept that I know exists, but I believe in it.
Yeah, I love it. And thank you. So I'm thinking of my concept. So you helped me on that one.
I just put on my
But it is. I really feel that there is a big thing here, because some of these personal development approaches are damning hope. They say hope is hope. I remember, and I will not tell names, but someone said always, "Oh, hope, 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 hope doesn't bring you anything." And I believe deeply that uh, for the ones who have their goal clear and are ready to go for it, fine. For the ones who do not, they strive on hope, and they strive on intentions. So they create intentions for their day. They can create. And if you talk about, so we talk a lot about concepts now, but if you talk about what can you do to feel better, what can you do to go forward, what can you do to have a better dialogue with yourself, is still your mind. How do I still my mind? Well, meditation, walk in the woods, deep breathing. Everybody tries out, and I think I will set up once a whole list of this stuff, and everybody tries out what works for him, because there is no one. As I always say, if there's one size fits all, I would be a billionaire, because I would tell everybody. But unfortunately, it isn't so. So everybody has to find it out for himself. That's why we have to inspire, not to teach.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that hope. What's also showing up for me, Marco, when you say that is like, if we were to find out, like, we do have this chatter, which is a combination of all kinds of thoughts, 64,000 thoughts that you and I process. 60,000 thoughts are coming from my yesterday. So, what is it that we could do to sort of, create this amazing outcome? What shows up for me is, what is my relationship with control?
Okay.
So how much am I really forcefully trying to curate and control my thoughts rather than letting them really truly flow in? Because when I let, those thoughts flow in, right, Marco, in that moment, I feel I really learn who I am, and acceptance comes into that. Accepting myself and looking at myself for who I am in that moment rather than who I thought I was or who I think I could be.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. I love that. And it's about this thought, how we really, how do we embrace it?
Yeah, how
Are
do
we
we?
the thought? Are we the thought and we're back, or are we aware that we're thinking it? And the first step is awareness. The second step is acknowledgement,
I love
not
that.
judgment. Just acknowledge. Acknowledge. Like, I was so angry this morning. Uh, my daughter went to vacation, which is a tough decision to take during Corona times. But for the young people staying at home for a year and not getting out of the door, so we took that decision. So we brought her to the airport, and now I'm talking about control. When it comes to this kind of stuff, I'm very, it's like, you do that, I do that, da, 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 and I'm very asking on myself, so I'm asking on others, and so some things were not done by my wife, which we decided on, and that drives me then so mad. So what are my things? What are my, how I'm talking to myself at that moment is,
Yes.
why can she never do what we decided? It is incredible that we don't have this, because for me it's about, there are a lot of things which could go wrong. Most of the time they are not going wrong. What I will do is I will eliminate everything which can go wrong, as much as I can, and everything which I can, I do. As like, but that was not done, and then I go into this loop. I don't know, and then I could have done that, and I always have to do the things myself. I always have to do the thing myself. I will never let her do it anymore. It's like, bah, 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 bah. All these things going on. Now, how can we handle that?
Yeah.
We can handle it by getting aware of it, then acknowledge, not deny, but acknowledge that's who I am, and there's a reason, and that's fine. But not being taken by it. And I was asking myself if I'm really ready for, because there were more this morning and so on, and I was ready to do this live, and I am. And why am I? Because I now can detach from it. Me 10 years or 5 years ago was impossible to detach from such a cycle of communication, and this down cycle then brings me to the point where I cannot have an enlightened conversation with Anj. and, and it only happens, and it can happen because at one moment in time, okay, Marco, it's okay. That's great. That's how you are. That's who you are. It's beautiful. Accept it. Acknowledge it. Acknowledge it, and then move on. There's the next thought, and the next thought is,
Exactly.
and she's amazing. I have this amazing opportunity to talk to her for 45 minutes.
It's amazing when I was having my self-talk, and they were slowly calling me crazy because I know I'm not. But I was telling myself the same thing. But Marco, what you said is so deep. Liu Chiorio at IPEC, he says that this asking ourselves, this conditioning process of the thoughts never stops. There is not, scientifically, we cannot stop it. So the only thing that we can do is interrupt the process. And it sounds to me like that's exactly what you did. You interrupted your process and
Yeah.
created a different result. And here am I.
There's Harshita. I just see some questions. So
Sure.
Harshita Malik asks, a friend of yours, I would say,
Yes.
Harshita. So how to identify the true thought and identify the key issue from the chatter that goes on? Well, for me, is what is the true thought? Thought is what comes up for me when you ask this question. Is, for me, thought is always linked to an emotion, and when we don't see, because when we are caught up, we don't see necessarily the thought, but we can feel the emotion. So both axes work. At least both axes work for me. Means that sometimes, oh yeah, you're thinking that again, but sometimes it's like, I feel this anger coming up again. So there's this anger. Okay, acknowledge the anger. The moment I can acknowledge the anger, I'm aware of it, I can acknowledge it, and I can let it be for what it be, a useful emotion in my life. Then I also can start to see my thought. So for me, there's, and that's then the thought I'm working on. I don't know if I answered your question, Harshita, but yeah, what comes up for you on that?
First of all, I want to say, hey, Harshi, so happy to. I can't see you, but you're there somewhere. Big kisses. What comes up for me, Marco, when I think of this question is like, I would just ask myself, rather than asking myself, what is my true thought? I will just say, what is my thought? Because even when I'm trying to condition my mind here by sort of telling myself already that it's a true thought, I'm already putting a label to it. I would just ask myself, what is my thought? Because in that moment, I'm accepting it exactly for what it is, and I'm not putting the color of the past or a future rainbow color of the future, you know so that is what is showing up for me.
Yeah, I see that.
I wonder how Harshita feels about what we shared.
Harshita said we have answered to her question, and she's happy, and she's
Oh,
happy to be here. We are happy to have you here. Yeah, so maybe let us take the last 5 minutes to give some perspective on what can we do to change our way to how we to change, transcend, accept, acknowledge our way how we think. Well, what is your take on that?
I think what shows up for me is ask myself open ended questions, Marco. The world of open ended, empowering, meaningful questions, that door to my world opened up when I met you guys at IPEC 2 years ago. Can you imagine? It's been 2 years. But I feel like rather than asking close minded questions to myself, because thinking is the process of answering and asking questions, like Tony Robbins says. Ask open ended questions. Why am I thinking this? Why is the chatter negative or positive or whatever it is in the moment? That is the first thing that shows up for me. And then moving from there.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I love how you say open-ended, powerful open-ended questions asked to yourself. What I would like to add is really when you when you get into this moment where you feel that something's wrong, because we're all on autopilot. So we're on autopilot, and then we say, and then we don't recognize that we are having thoughts or negative thoughts, or we're talking to ourselves badly. Uh, but when we start to think about what when we start to feel that there's something not right, there's something, this doesn't feel right, that's the moment where we can start to look at our thoughts. And the moment we look at the thoughts, that's the moment where we can we can work on this awareness. For me, and I always say it, for me what helped tremendously was meditation. And I really got into an totally different state of time through, and I actually I don't like to call it anymore so much meditation, I call it inner voyage. uh, uh, I got so much more, I would say, this millisecond of action between action and reaction.
Yeah.
That was what it gave me. And afterwards, yeah, try hope. Be self-compassionate. Don't bash yourself. Don't do like just a last little anecdote of my life. Like in 2015, I decided to lose weight. I was 122 kilograms and totally overweight, and I decided I will lose weight, and I started to do workout, and I didn't eat, and the only thing which held me on doing it was bashing myself every
Yeah.
day. I don't say to people stop losing weight. I say to people do it with self-compassion, because you're not doing yourself a favor by bashing yourself. So many highly sportive people who are very strict and very self-disciplined in a way die with heart attack, or whatever small cancer, at 50 to 60 years old, and there's a reason for that. So I'm not a doctor, I will not go deeper on that, but there is a reason, and the reason is
Love that.
be self-compassionate, love yourself. That's the most important thing I can say.
To build up on what you just shared, there was a study that was conducted, I think, somewhere in the US. I mean, I'm sorry, I can't remember where, but they studied the behavior of success and good habits. So imagine that you have gone off of sugar, and there are two situations. You open your fridge and there's cake lying there. And in that moment, your self chatter is like, fuck, I love this cake. Should I just eat a piece? But I'm going to resist it. You're using a lot of force and willpower to say no to yourself. Then there is a second group of people. They could just, the cake is very much there and it doesn't bother them. So what they have done is like, made like it's like the cake doesn't exist. The chatter is a lot less. And that's what happens when you cultivate a really good habit. And how do you cultivate that habit? That I think this is a Shankar Mahadevan talk that I'll later WhatsApp it to you, Marco. But basically, what it says is when you're making a good habit, the reason people make it a lifestyle change, a behavioral change, where the inner voice is silenced, is because it is something that is happening from their subconscious. The person who opens the fridge and is so conscious in the moment, saying that I'm not going to eat this, he's being very conscious about that habit. So, the subconscious mind, how much do we know our subconscious mind? How much do we embrace it so that down the road it becomes like a beautiful habit? You're not even aware you're doing that. You're not aware of the cake.
Yeah. Yeah. And I tell you, I'm still on the journey for that one. So we can do a lot of lives on that one over time because it's like then I did that. Now I was on fasting. I will go to fasting. It's an incredible journey, and that's actually maybe my last word because we are on the 45-minute mark.
Yeah.
But my last word would be: life is so beautiful, love it, and most importantly, love yourself and love the thoughts you have. Even so, at a certain moment you think it's so bad for you, acknowledge them and move on.
So beautifully put. I love that. For me, my last words, Marco, would be like, just listen to those thoughts too. As you hear the chatter, actually listen to them. I feel like at the heart of excellent, good communication is true listening. So when we listen to that and, find our truth without any blame or judgment, I feel that's truly an amazing place to live in.
Ah, beautiful. Only 45, already 45 minutes. That was amazing. And
So much
thank you so much.
fun. Let's take it
Thank
off.
you, thank you. Was an amazing conversation, and I hope that there were some interesting insights for some of our listeners. And hey, was a pleasure. Looking forward to do a next live with you, Anj, and to anybody. I will continue do how to lead now series over the next few months. Some things are planned, some less. We'll see what comes up. You will be informed through the classical channels. Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Thanks so much, Marco. I love the fact and I love your human being. You're one of the human beings I have the honor of really knowing.
Yeah, that's another thing for another time. Have a good one. Bye bye.
See you.